support for them.
Absolutely. We're all victims. At the end of the day, if you are a citizen of Philadelphia and you don't work for this city, you're a fucking victim. At the end of the day, if we're not the ones writing the laws, we are being victimized by them. The homeless, the residents, the children, the elderly, the sick, the infirm. We suffer while they profit. They closed Hahnemann. PHA owns thousands of properties in this city that sit abandoned while people sleep on the streets. This city claims that their Office of Homeless Services provides a trauma-informed housing first practice. Not a one of them do. Because if it was housing first, people would be in houses while they figured out how to get them into recovery. Absolutely. Or while they figured out how to get them the mental health that they need.
Absolutely.
If it was trauma-informed, they wouldn't be out here constantly sweeping these streets and throwing people's possessions away and causing more fucking trauma.
Absolutely. If it was trauma-informed, they'd be speaking to our young people. Our young people have been called mean. When you try walking around feces, urine, dodging bullets, ducking drug dealers, seeing people shoot up on your streets at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, let's see how fucking nice you're gonna be. If it was trauma-informed, you'd be looking at the seniors who shelter in place because they're afraid to come out of our home. You'd be looking at those seniors. Those are a treasure in our community. We need to interface with them. We need to hear their stories so that we can continue some of these legacies. You want to why some of this shit is so broken? We don't have the feeling of community because you want to separate us. And I say no more. Get these people housing now.
We've listened for the last 6 months about this city talking about how the crime rate is astronomical. The crime rate is through the roof. Violent crimes is going crazy. But what the city doesn't tell you is how every opportunity they get, they defund any program that would help to prevent that crime. They have us at each other's throats, robbing, killing, and stealing just to survive.
I was 12 years old, had to learn how to do Narcan. I've seen this whole everything change. We have to work together to change this. And we're fighting each other. What's the point? What's the point? Everything in history when it goes down because everyone who is fighting each other fights the city, fights the government. It's time to stop fighting each other. It's time we've been helping them, but we can't do it alone. Some of you came from colleges, from far away. We need your help here. You came down here to help these people. You need to help them. Help this neighborhood, because it's not gonna go anywhere if we don't work together.
I want to say this. I understand that people come down here to our community to help the homeless. I get it. But what about the people, the residents of this community, whose children have to worry about being shot? You have to understand, with drug addiction comes drug dealers. And with drug dealers comes crime and violence. You come down here to our community to try to dictate what happens in this community, and you go home
and you don't have to. Because this city passes this narrative of scarcity all the time. But what they don't tell you is that they allow organizations like Penn and Temple to own Penn by itself owns 10% of this city, but pays no taxes. That's why in areas like this we suffer. And what their intention is, and don't get it wrong, these sweeps, these ain't to help the residents. This is so that they can gentrify this fucking neighborhood.
It's not gonna happen.
This is so that they can take the abandoned houses that they won't move the people who are unhoused into and sell them at a profit and raise the property value around the people who live here to force you out. We watched it happen in West Philly. We watched it happen in Southwest Philly. Now they're moving up this way. This is an attempt of the city of Philadelphia to landscape this city with the residents that they want here, not with the people who have put their blood, sweat, and tears into building and maintaining this city. So it's not no accident. It is by design. Because those of us who are out here helping the homeless, one of the things that we attempt to do is help residents also. We come to the city with proposals to try to get the things that the residents need, as well as the people who are unhoused. And what we get from the city is that there's not enough money. But there's money to increase the police budget. There's money to pay to criminalize people who are stuck in a situation that they have no control over, right? So, once again, we see it the same way, and we're trying to do it the same way, but this city, this government, this country has survived by keeping us divided. They've survived by pushing this narrative that if you're liberal, then you belong on this side. If you're conservative, you belong on that side. When in actuality, we're all just human. We all just want to see the human race thrive and survive on a planet that will allow us.
And people blame the drug dealers for this. My mom has driven these people to job interviews, and they won't even let them in the door. They have to provide for their families somehow, and if the need for this stuff is here, they're gonna provide like that. Why are you not letting these people get jobs? They want them. We need more jobs here. We need to work together.
Great points. Great points. I can't even argue those. But at the same time, let's remember that we don't just need jobs. We need jobs that pay us a living wage. This $7.25 an hour minimum wage, that died before they ever passed it. We should be getting, according to inflation rates, somewhere between $20 to $25 an hour as the minimum wage. But we're not. And it's not guaranteed anywhere in this country because it doesn't benefit major corporations. See, one thing that I've learned in my life is that the only way for some people to climb the ladder is to make sure that they're pushing the ones behind them back down, right? And no matter what we do, and I say we because I feel like I'm part of the people, but we feel like no matter what we do, certain ones of us have strikes against us as far as this system is concerned from the moment that we are born. In this country, the darker your skin, the harder your problems. Not saying that we don't all have problems, but you take whatever problem you're going through, and if you got dark skin, you can magnify that problem.
You have housing for all sides. We want that too. No heroin in Haugen. That too. We want the same things. Why are we fighting each other here?
Well, as of now, we're not. As of now, we seem to all have come to be on the same page. And that's the one they don't want us to be on. That's the one where we start uniting Philadelphia against the people who have been holding Philadelphia down.
I say there's no loyalty like street loyalty. So we have to pull that around Philadelphia.
And it has to start somewhere. And I'm glad it started here, and I'm glad it started today. So if you feel like we feel, I want to hear it. Housing is a human right.
Housing is a human right.
Louder. Housing is a human right.
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 They need to be paying for it. There's no free rides.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said they have to pay for it. There's no free rides.
No ride is free.
They think it is. They want housing and not pay for it.
Can I ask you guys a question? So I've been interviewing protesters, counter-protesters, and I'm hearing the same thing, that the city is sending money meant for rent relief, homeless services, and redirecting it to things like prisons, police, and other government programs. Where is the money that the city has gotten from the federal government that's meant for rent relief, the homeless, and other things?
That's a good question. And only the city can answer it. Because when we ask the question, we don't get an answer. When we try to hold their feet to the fire, we get no response. Last year when this pandemic was raging, and the CDC put out guidance that said that they should not sweep encampments, and they did anyway, and they caused a COVID outbreak in our brother's place, we went to the source, Brian Abernathy. And in coalition with a bunch of other groups, we were the reason why Brian Abernathy is no longer the city manager. So, when it comes down to it, if we can influence the people who are making the decisions to make the right decisions, we do. But what they do, as you saw today, is they try to get people to fight each other. They tell us one thing, they tell the other side another thing, and they hope that we won't come together and actually conversate to find out what the truth is, right? Because there's always three sides to every story. And usually the truth is that third side, because that's a blending of the other two. And in this particular case, the truth is the city would rather give tax breaks to Comcast, to Penn, to Temple. They would rather allow a private developer to shut down Hahnemann Hospital, which provided more services to the lowest earning people in the city than any other hospital around here. That's what the truth is. And the city allows this to happen. The city actually pushes for this to happen. Instead of adding money to things like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the city instead would rather take and give Comcast a tax break. Instead of putting money into mental health services, the city would rather put more money into the police to criminalize those people. Instead of giving people health care so that they can take care of their basic needs, the city would rather throw them in a shelter and forget about it. So, at the end of the day, the residents have a valid gripe. It's very valid. The problem is they're being pointed at the wrong people. And us coming together today and conversating about this helps them to understand that we see them and we hear them, and it allows them to see us and hear us.
We're live in Kensington, a neighborhood in Philadelphia, very poor, very homeless, a lot of homelessness here, a lot of destructive gentrification being attempted. And what's going on here is police were expected to sweep, what they call sweeps, evict.
Good morning, everyone.
I'll continue in a few minutes.
We are here about reforming, revitalization about our community. We are here, and let me share something about the difference between encampment and homeless. Encampment are those that we consider and we see that they do not want to receive help or housing. And in my experience in over 20 years out in the streets of the city of Philadelphia, trust and believe I do know what I'm talking about. One of the things that we have a problem with is when people intrude, when we're trying to make a big difference in our city and people intrude, they disappear and nothing is done. Then when we're trying to clean up again, they reappear and interfere again in trying to reform our community. This is about trying to clean our streets, about responding to our residents. This is about responding to our children, responding to our local businesses. This is about responding to our landlords because they have all lost so much, especially more during the pandemic. And all we hear are complaints, no involvement. Complaints, no participation. You want to know if the city is helping? In my personal opinion, they do their part. The problem is that we and many expect the city to do everything for us. And we cannot have the city do or the police do everything for us. We have to participate. We have to participate. Why are we complaining and not doing? That's what I want to know. And I'm not talking about every one of you either. You know who we're talking about. Because when people come to me and complain, I ask them, when was the last time you've been to a community meeting?
That's right.
When was the last time that you joined us for a community event to provide resourceful information to our residences? That's what I want to know. The problem here today is the city was doing their usual 6-month cleanup. In addition to that, they want to go ahead and do something about the encampment, those that just don't want to do anything but sit around. Have I spoken personally to them? Yes. Yes, there are people that have gone through trauma. There are people that just want to have fun. So we're talking about the people that just want to have fun, about considering and having to receive help, rehabilitation, about receiving and uniting with their families, about being considerate about the local businesses and residences and the children that have to go to school. That's what we have to be concerned about. So what are we going to do? We're going to end up forming a meeting. Those that I invited are only those that believe that the encampment have to be removed from the streets. And I'm going to say it this way, and I'm going to make myself clear. This is not a disrespect, because we are here for all of our people. But we have to focus on rehabilitation. When I used to go to meetings that was focused on rehabilitation, now there's only focus on distributing Narcan, needles, and snort packs. Narcan, needles, and snort packs. Now what happened to the rehabilitation? That's what I want to know, because let me tell you something. I've personally taken people to rehabs, even outside of the city and outside of the state. Everybody can't do that. Everybody don't want to do that, and I do understand that, okay? But we got to make a difference over here in this community. We're here for a purpose. So please, anybody that come to me and say there's unity, while you still want the encampment here, go somewhere else, okay? Because I'm not in for that, okay? And it's no disrespect. But we will have a meeting to make a change in this community, to stop having people interfere in what we have to do, and stop having people disrespect our meetings and our unities here, just the same way we don't disrespect yours. We want our community back. We want our residences back. We want our families back. We want our parks back. We love our people. We love all of our people. But we got to make a change. Having to preserve and having to serve food without trash bins. Having to give them cans, perishable items. Food that they have to cook while they're living in the street makes no sense. Obviously, if they can't cook, if they can't open up a can, and if perishable items go bad, where do you think they end up in the street? So where are the trash cans? Why are you giving to our homeless individuals food that they can't do anything with? Why are they giving items that they cannot bring to a home because they have no home? We gotta focus on rehab, we gotta focus on housing, and we gotta focus on rehab. And we gotta focus on families. And the families that do not get involved with their loved ones that have the addiction of drugs, shame on you. Because in order to make a recovery, family has to be involved. There is no way that somebody in recovery is going to recover when they can't hear the loved ones. If they can't hear the voices of a friend or a loved one. So if you have not spoken to a loved one today that has the addiction of drugs, call them, reach out to them, hug them, tell them that you love them, because they can't do it alone. I'm telling you, they can't do it alone. They need help. And if you can't give your neighbor a bowl of soup while they're sick, you can't answer the phone call of your loved one that's out in the street with the addiction of drugs. They need to hear your voice. Talk to them even if it's for 5 minutes. They may not talk to you back in those 5 minutes, but trust and believe.
Accident happened. Right. So you don't really understand what we're talking about. Yeah. The motherfuckers over there, please don't put it in my face, sir. The motherfuckers over there, though, the motherfuckers over there, though, you know how they are, how they treat us. Yeah. That's why I talk to y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I don't talk to them. You saying they mistreat you? What? They be what? We gonna do a survey, right?
Huh? So this dispute started in asking like why the protesters are allowed to be here, why others are not, and according to this gentleman, he has video evidence of police strong-arming. I believe he said a woman, she had dropped her money, and so they're discussing this with the police and not really getting any answers. So that's where the situation is right now.
So we see obviously an argument with police going on. Oh, wait, go back here.
That's not good either. But please think about the community and those that are listening that have the addiction of drugs. We love you. There are many locations for you to go to. It does not have to be Philadelphia. It does not have to be Philadelphia. If you want to reach out to me to get help, to receive help. I meet with rehabilitation centers even outside of this city to help make a difference. But remember, when you want to make a difference in your life, you have to leave everything behind you. That means your children, your house, your car, your money, your job, because you have to come first. You have to come first. Thank you so much for everyone listening, and thank you for those that came here for the purpose of clearing out and bringing back our community appropriately without interfering, because we're not only thinking about the encampment, we're thinking about everyone! Everyone! And we gotta stop being so damn selfish and think only about one area of encampment. We got families, we have children, we have homes, we have businesses, and we have parts that they can't even play in. Thank you so much for your time.
So what's going on here? We came out about 8 a.m. In Philadelphia. Police were expected to do a sweep. And a sweep is basically forcefully evicting homeless people that really don't have anywhere else to go. Police often do it under the guise of cleaning up the streets and then push the homeless away, clear them out of the areas. Sometimes they're a street corner, sometimes it's a park under a train where we are right now. Oftentimes the police take their belongings, including tents, blankets, food, whatever. So you have protesters that came out. Supporting the homeless to stop the eviction, to stop the sweeps, to stop the eviction. There was actually a lawsuit just filed this week on behalf of the homeless to stop the forceful evictions of encampments. That there are several encampments throughout the city. On the other side, there were counter-protesters, residents of Kensington, which is a neighborhood in Philadelphia, very poor, very diverse, very poor, and a lot of homelessness. By the way, which is about 10 to 15 minutes away from highly gentrified, beautiful Philadelphia. This is going on in countries around America. A tale of two cities. A tale of two cities. Gentrification, which I call economic terrorism, is running rampant. So an interesting thing happened. We recorded some interviews. I interviewed some counter-protesters. One was really something, so we'll be showing that later. But one of the counter-protesters, hold on. Don't quite know. Okay. I don't quite know where that counter-protester went. She's a resident here. We had a discussion, respectful. She, like a lot of the residents here, want the homeless cleared out, are tired of needles everywhere, are tired of homeless defecating on the street, are tired of not being able to take their children to the park comfortably. You know, valid concerns. I respectfully asked her, A, where do you want them to go? And B, aren't you protesting the wrong group? Shouldn't you be protesting the city who's not actually providing the services for shelter, mental health, drug addiction, job programs, while the city is redirecting money meant for those things to prisons and other little pockets? What happened was one of the counter-protesters who I interviewed went over to the other side of the street where the protesters are and basically did a peace accord saying, why are we on the other side fighting with each other when we both want the same thing? So the counter-protesters who live here, who want the homelessness cleared out, but several I've spoke who want them cleared out, but also helped, rushed over to the other side of the street and said, why are we fighting with one another when we should be fighting the city? So the residents, I don't want to diminish their concern. They have valid concerns about needles on the ground, rampant drug use, people pooping on their property, not wanting their children to be exposed to these kind of things, pickpocketing. I'm not diminishing their concerns, but it's very positive, I think, that leaders with the counter-protesters walked over to the protesters and said, we have a common goal. Maybe for different reasons we want the homeless out of here, but we want the homeless out of these neighborhoods and helped. And that's where you started seeing speeches from leaders of the protest movement to stop the evictions, leaders of the protest movement who are fighting the city to help the homeless, to house the homeless, to feed the homeless, to give them mental health services, to give them drug addiction services, rehabilitation, and the counter-protesters who united with them in speaking out against the city. And just so you know, Obviously, I'm not a Philadelphia government expert. I've only been here 3 days. But many people I've spoken with so far say the city is giving massive tax breaks to Comcast, which is a major media company that owns NBC and MSNBC. One protester said Comcast runs the city. They're giving tax breaks to real estate developers who are gentrifying the city, building up luxury apartments, paying off the politicians to drive the homeless out of these communities, to drive the people that do have homes out of these communities so that they could gentrify it, build up luxury apartments, condos, Whole Foods, those kind of things. The federal government gave Philadelphia hundreds of millions of dollars that I've talked with several people has not gone to the homeless, has not gotten to the homeless, has not gotten to people facing eviction, and has been redirected now to prisons. And by the way, Philadelphia is just one city. This kind of stuff happens all over the country. So, obviously, the corporate media today, all week, the massive focus has been on the political Super Bowl of Biden meeting with Putin in Russia, analyzing it, analyzing hand gestures, facial expressions, strategy, basically getting ratings by Russiagating. I think as far as I know, we're the only media out here right now. As far as I know, we're the only media out here right now. So, hold on, John. I want to see if I could get her to talk again. Hold on, folks. One more time.
I actually forgot to mention something which is very, very important. And for those of you that are not aware, one of the main concerns that a lot of us are having right now is that Narcan is not only given to the people that have the addiction of drugs. Instead of focusing on having personal training with families, they're giving Narcan to the drug dealers as well. So that's Narcan.
So I'm here with Sonia, a resident in Kensington. Sonia, a resident in Kensington. We spoke earlier, and I was describing to the audience that you, a resident here, were kind of with, I guess you call it the counter-protesters, but you walked over to where the protesters were fighting the evictions and basically said, why don't we work together instead of fighting? Can you kind of explain what made you do that?
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of virtual meetings. And so through the process of having my position as a resident and saying to people, coming from opposite positions, right? We want what we want for our community. People want to, what we perceive to be was leave people where they are and let them decide to come from to get help or get housing, whatever. It made it seem like it was us versus them. But through the process of going to these meetings, I started to recognize, and we all did, we have more in common than we have apart. So in the moment where I was watching the opposite side, I was looking at their signs, housing for all, get help for people. It just clicked. We all want the same thing. We want people to have housing. We want people to have treatment. But we want them off our streets. We want them out of here. And so it dawned on me that the city benefits from us fighting. Right? We have now taken this focus off of them and their failures and their incompetencies, and we're too busy focusing on each other. Your point of view is wrong. That point of, is like the whole Democrat-Republican thing, right? And everybody was so busy fighting instead of seeing what we had in common that we were starting to make policies and put things in place that was going in the opposite direction of what we believe even America should be. And so in that moment, I said, hey, I talked to a couple of the guys that were on the opposite side, on this side of the street, and they were like, hell yeah, we do agree. And so I just said, let me go see what happens. And they said, yeah. And the one thing that, I don't think was clear enough is that it's really about the kids, right? Like, we're raising a generation of young people. Like, what are we giving them? Are we raising the next generation of users, of dealers, of people who see that you can do bad things and still get attention and resources? Or are we trying to raise a generation of people that will be actively engaged for positive change? And if we don't start to bring the focus around them and say, what are we teaching them, right? Because they're going to magnify it. I'm a mother, and I see some of my kids' behaviors. I'm like, ooh, that's me. Ooh, that's me, you know, and I have to go to them and say, I got that wrong, right? Those are the types of things that I think that each side has. We all want better for people, you know, and so that's really where that came from. And just out of a desire to stop fighting with each other and maybe unify on some fundamental level to say, hey guys, this is really your fault. You had us fighting with each other, but we're not fighting with each other. The fight is with you. What are you going to do?
You know, it's so interesting. We were talking earlier. I think so much of America, the media, the government, kind of drives people to blame the other people, the Mexicans, the Muslims, Hispanics, indigenous, LGBTQ, rather than turn the focus on why are wages at poverty levels? Why is there such rampant homelessness? Who is funding these politicians' campaigns? Just in Philadelphia, why aren't the Philadelphia local government? There's plenty of vacant hotels. There's plenty of vacant lots. So it sounds to me like this coming together, which can be replicated elsewhere. What is the city doing for the residents here, as well as the people that have nowhere else to go?
Yeah, the officials who are getting paid to manage and maintain our city, this is their legacy, right? Like, they're the ones we hired to do certain jobs. And we're here to say, you're not doing your job. We're not going to look at, you know, the person who's running Prevention Point or the person who's running the shelters. They're not the people who are making the policies and putting things into place that can reinforce and start to move things in a direction in which people can live humanely, right? Whatever their problem may be, mental illness, drug addiction, whatever the problems may be, there is a certain level of basic humanity that every person should have a right to have, as should the residents. We should be able to come here and say, hey, you from so-and-so, you can't come here and dictate what's going to happen in our community. We are in charge of what's happening, and we're working with our officials to shape and mold the kind of community. I would dare not go to somewhere else. So I think that when people start saying, what can I do to help make a better community, I think those are more probably effective communications that will begin to shift the focus on our differences, because we're going to have differences. I don't believe in a lot of the stuff that people are saying that they're out here doing. I just don't. That's not my wheelhouse. And they think I'm probably an asshole for my perspective, and that's fine. But we all agree that people should not have to live their way they're living. And there are resolutions that can fix this so that we don't have this polar opposite. It's not productive, right? What's more productive is saying, what can we all do to make the world a better place?
You know, at the federal level and the media, we've been hearing a lot that things are going back to normal. Coronavirus cases are way down. More people are being vaccinated. Jobs are coming back, even though most of them are non-livable wages. But there's this narrative, back to normal, back to normal. Well, all I see is the same shitty normal that's only worse now. Yes. But 10-minute drive, it's another world. 10-minute drive away from here, like most cities, it's a tale of two cities. Beautiful restaurants, bars, hotels, grocery stores. But you drive 10 minutes away.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you gotta go? Okay, hold on.
Attention! Stop wasting your time on people that were not invited here. People that are putting their time.
Let them speak too.
Can I ask you what's going on?
Let them speak too. Let them speak too.
Can I ask you what's going on?
Here's the thing. I guess the thing is this. They're not okay with the living conditions.
Right over here.
I need everyone to understand one thing.
My thing is this. No matter, because the people, just because you're a drug addict, or just because you happen to make the wrong turn down here, you're still a human.
You're still somebody's father. These are the best doctors, the best lawyers, the best engineers. They just happen to make the wrong turn. You understand that? They didn't ask for this. When you understand addiction, addiction is hard. It doesn't happen overnight. They don't want to be here. They want help. They want people to understand them. You don't just kick them out like they're not human. They are human. This can be any of us any day. You just happen to be in position, but you don't know what day or what can happen to you out of a bad day. Your mother can die, your father can die, and it can just happen just that fast. But just because I'm a drug addict doesn't mean give up on me today or not want to hang with me tomorrow. If I happen to be standing here, help me. Don't walk past me. Uplift me. I don't want to be down here neither, but these are human beings that want housing. These people feel the same way. And it's this not about the community. The community waited too late. That's the thing. This was your community, and you didn't come out when you seen someone sitting outside of your step. You allowed it to go for 1 week, 2 weeks. When you seen them sitting the first day, you lift him up. Hey, my brother, what is it that I can do for you? You stop a snake at the first beginning before he become an anaconda. You don't wait before it become an anaconda and then say, I want to stop it. That's how a wildfire become a wildfire. You put it out at the beginning. These are human beings, and you don't just push them out. Every building down Kensington is empty, and all of these people deserve to be in buildings. These are my friends. All of these people that's homeless in Kensington, these are my friends. And I would hate to see them just pushed out somewhere like they're animals. Do you understand? These are human beings. I don't care what their drug of choice is. They are not animals. And they're the most warming, helpfulest people that I ever met. And I feel safe with the people in Kensington than I do anywhere. I help them every day. You know why? Because I listen to their stories. I understand what it is that they want. They just want to be with their girlfriends. They want to be with their loved ones. And they want someone to undercarry their story. They don't want to be out here. They want to be in housing. But you can't just put them in housing before you understand them mentally. They don't want to be in institutionalized programming either. So find out what it is that they like to do outside. 10 parts. Find it what it is.
I want to ask you, because a lot of the counter protesters I've spoken with have said, we're tired of seeing the needles, people defecating, our children aren't safe through this. 1 second.
The children are not making it safe upon themselves because some of the crime rate is happening from the children. So it goes hand to hand. You got to give respect to get respect. The kids are sitting there vandalizing. The Kensington people are not vandalizing anything. They're minding their own business because they have nowhere to go. The kids are hurting them.
And what I said to them was, aren't you protesting the wrong group? Shouldn't you be protesting your city at City Hall, the government who's allowing this?
That's who they should be protesting. Don't wait till it's too late. And I don't care because these people is from the suburbs, whatever. They understand now because they didn't have to go with the we went through. So the people from the suburbs that's up here, they understand this now because they didn't have to live in our communities. But thank God they're up here in our community so they see what we're going through. It's not about a black or white thing. This is an equally thing. So don't kick them out like they don't have a voice. They have a voice. And they matter, and they care, and their voices and their opinions are valid. Oh, because they live in the suburbs and they don't live up here, they shouldn't care? That's not true. No, they don't live here, but they understand and they feel sorry for why should it. People see, here's the thing. People think, oh, people in the suburbs, they're rich and they don't care. No, what it is, people in the suburbs feel sorry and they don't understand why is it that we live up here and people down here don't get treated like we do up here. So that's why they come down and help.
And what I find really, hold on. She's telling other protesters to speak up, use their voice.
Okay? So don't just think because you don't live around here, you don't have a voice. That's bullshit, because you do. And don't be afraid to speak up for what you feel. Okay? Please don't. There's two sides to every story. All right? And stand up for whatever you believe in. I don't care what color you are, where you from, or whatever. But until you went through it, they would never understand what it is to be an addict or a homeless person. This is their community. They allow it to get like this. It's like a wildfire. You put a fire out before it becomes a wildfire. You understand what I'm saying? So you guys are here for a reason. Just because you don't live here doesn't mean that you don't have a right to speak about what's going on here. But you see it. Just because I don't live here doesn't mean that I don't have a right to sit there and feel sorry for what's going on here. It's wrong. These people think the people in Kensington are the nastiest people, and that's not true. These people are not nasty. They're human, and they mean something. And they're my friends, and they mean something to me. And I don't care if no one stands for me, they mean something. And just to kick them out like they don't mean nothing, that's true. Put them in somewhere. In housing, everyone don't want to be in institutional housing. There's all of these places on Kensington is empty. Put it inside them buildings first. Play games with them, read with them, do cooking classes, workshop classes with them. Get in their mind, figure it out what it is that they like to do. Some of these guys was doctors, lawyers. They just happened to make the wrong turn and got stuck. But that doesn't mean inhumanize them because they're drug addicts or they smell bad. This can be any of us at any point of our time. But don't hang around me because I lost myself down here at Kensington or walk past me like I don't matter no more. Everybody go through something in life. We all get fucked up somewhere. Stuff happens to us all the time. But that doesn't mean don't be my friend no more because you see me sitting here. Or that doesn't mean kick me or walk past me because I'm an addict now. I still matter. I was allowed to hang with you last week. But because I fucked up, I had a death in my family, and I happened to go get high or have a mental breakdown, you don't want to hang with me this week? That's not cool. Or does that mean keep me on the streets and don't have him help me get housing? Or keep me on the streets or tell me that I'm not mean nothing or I don't mean nothing? That's not true. I'm still human, and I still matter, and I still believe that I still have a chance. So how everybody's point of view is that I don't agree with everything. I believe that the community waited till late. Because if I was sitting on your step the first day and you didn't like it, you should have moved me the second day and I wouldn't been here the third day. So that's not my fault, it's your fault. And as far as business owners, I bought this business. So that means I'm holding accountable for what I allowed on the front of my business. Because just because I work in here, you're responsible for how you hold your business on the outside. Amen. So if you waited for a whole month, that's on you. Because you got to pay your taxes at the end of the day. So you allow these people to sit here. You can't blame just the city. Everybody got to be held accountable for their own actions. It's not just the community. It's not just the people in the suburbs that's coming down. No, the people in the suburbs don't care. I mean, they don't live here, but they see it. And they now understand that the people in the black community understand what we go through. So now they're down here because they want to be down with us. They're not against us. So they're understanding what we go through. It's everybody's whole accountability. So, I don't.
It's the cops, right?
It's not the cops. It's not the cops because here's the thing. But here's the thing. But the cops, you see the cops though. But the kids are doing the more killing.
They are making deals and bringing drugs in here. That shit is addictive. They are making deals.
I got two
They
babies
are making
right
deals.
Here. I got two babies right here. What are we gonna give them? When are we gonna focus on?
We got to lead by example. We gotta lead by example.
These babies right here.
And what are the kids doing to us?
It's not on.
What is the kids? What is the kids doing to make it safe for us? There's kids beating people up, older people up. It's everybody. What is the kids? It's the kids' responsibility.
It's the kids' responsibility to make it safe for grown folks, or is it the opposite way around? What's going on today is we allowing the kids to lead as opposed to the elders.
The kids are not respecting the elders.
The elders are supposed to lead the kids, but it's the opposite way around nowadays.
You see kids holding more guns and beating people up more than you see elders.
Why? Because the elders are not doing what they're supposed to do.
Here's the thing. You gotta understand this. It's on both sides. You can't hold just one person accountable. When a 15-year-old pick a gun up and kill someone, he's held accountable because he pulled the trigger. So you gotta hold.
Can I just ask? Can I?
What about who raised them?
If
a community is sick, right? Hold up. If the community is ill, right? Then the people in the community are gonna be ill as well, right? Because we're a product of our environment, right? If we're a product of our environment, right, then we feed off of what we fed. We eat off of what we fed, right? So if we're a product of our environment, what our environment is, if our environment is shit, then we're going to be shit, right? Right?
That's an old slave man mentality of what we thought back in the 60s.
I'm 19. It's fight or be killed around here.
So we're reigning truth for the elders. We're reigning truth for what's going on now. All those people, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all these people that stood for something. That's old shit, right? That don't have nothing to do with now, right? Yes, it does. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be who we are today, right? Right? That don't. But what? Ain't no but. Because when you say but, you negate everything you're about to say, right? Right?
We had the wrong march. We had the wrong march for that. We need to be down at the City Hall then. We're at the wrong march for that. We're talking about Kensington. We're talking about homelessness. I'm not saying that. I'm speaking. The people in the streets is the community. I'm not going against what you're saying. I'm not going against what you're saying. What I'm saying is the people in Kensington is our community.
Of course, but at the same time, if you got a snake, right? You got a snake, you know what you got, right? If you take the snake home and the snake bites you, you ain't gonna say, oh, I didn't know you was a snake, right?
But can I ask you a question? Is the snake the homeless people out here, or is the snake the government, the local government that's not providing the services that they have the money for? Is the snake the drug user? Is the snake the drug users, the homeless people, the people defecating, or the local city government who's taking money, putting it into the police, prisons, corporate tax cuts, and not coming down here and giving them affordable housing, giving them job programs, giving them mental health programs, giving them drug rehabilitation? I'm not saying you guys absolutely shouldn't have to live with needles and poop and all that. Your children should be able to walk to the park. But it seems like everybody's fighting each other instead of being at City Hall demanding that the government do for the homeless and for the residents.
The people are doing what they know to do. Now, a lot of people don't know nothing about going down to City Hall and fighting they fight. All they know is about fighting they fight at home, right here, on the forefront where the war is at. You know what I'm saying? When they go down City Hall, ain't no war down there for them. It's pretty down there. Everything is all gorgeous. You know what I mean? But right here, what we see, this the war zone right here. Because you walking through here, I'm walking through here with my youngins, and then we got to deal with all this stuff that's going on. We recognize that it's political. I also recognize that this is a red light district. For those that don't understand what a red light district is, that means that the city allows everything that goes on down here to go on. You know what I mean? So therefore, they don't have to deal with it. All the prostitution, all the drugs, all the selling drugs, all those type of things, they're allowed to go on down here because they don't give a damn. But I bet you if this community was a suburb and people had money, a lot of money, this wouldn't be going on because they wouldn't allow. Why? Because dollars and cents, it adds up. It makes sense. Now, down here in this community, people ain't got money like that. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, they allow all this to go on. people out here, the problem is it's political. Not only political, it's a drug problem. It's addiction. It's not, if you get these people housing right now, the majority of them wouldn't go into housing. Why? Because they're on drugs. You know what I'm saying? So the drugs is leading their lives. The drug is their guide. The drug is their home. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, why would they come out the street? Because they can't come into a shelter or a good, clean environment and try to clean themselves up if they can't use drugs.
What do you think for a lot of homeless people is making them relapse, is making them use drugs? Is it the trauma of living out on the streets? For a lot of homeless people, they get cleaned up when they have housing, but when they're forced back into the streets, they get addicted.
You can ask 10 different people, and 10 different people will have different reasons why they get high. Nobody know why each individual get high. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that individual, out of those 10 individuals, all those individuals got to take self-responsibility for themselves.
Have you ever had you or someone in your family have a disease?
Yes.
So this is not a choice; it's a disease. It's a disease.
Well, I'll tell you, the disease is the individual in the way that he go about thinking and his attitude and how he perceive things. The disease is not the drug per se, and because therefore how I think, therefore I am. You see what I'm saying? So if I don't use, then each day I can get better with myself and work on myself. But the more I use, then of course I'm gonna blame it on the substance that I use. The substance is not the disease. I am the disease because I'm the choices that I make in my perception, the way I see things, and go about using drugs.
But you're aware that the addiction, the addiction hijacks your brain. Right. It makes you dependent. Right. People are addicted to all sorts of things: gambling, drugs, alcohol, whatever. It's not that they have no responsibility, but addiction takes away the logic, takes away the control, takes away your actual cognitive function, and makes you do that. But I want to go back to something you said. You said people don't understand City Hall and fighting the government. It's beautiful down there. It's it's not beautiful down here. Right. Isn't that the point? Why is it beautiful down there and they leaving you to rot? Wait. Why is it they're leaving you to rot while building up 10, 15 blocks, bars, restaurants, hotels? Aside from the homelessness, they are basically letting people fend for themselves while trying to reinvent the city for wealthier white people. So isn't that the fight, in addition to getting homeless people off the street into housing, rehabilitation services? Aren't you all fighting each other rather than fighting the government that has the money, has the shelters, has the vacant lots, has the vacant hotels?
I beg to differ with you on that point. We're not fighting against each other. We're all just emotional about what's going on. And we're dealing with it in different ways. You understand? But the simple fact of the matter is that I can see things my way, you can see things your way. We can all see the same thing, and we have different perceptions about what we see. You know what I mean? So we all got our way of handling what we see or what we're dealing with. And that's the case down here. Like I said, my children right here, these my twins right here. They gotta see all this. They don't understand what's going on. Oh, Daddy, why is that man over there pooping in the street? Oh, well, Daddy, why is this man over here putting something in his arm? Oh, Daddy, why is these people doing this and that, this, that, and the third? And then I'm left to try to downplay it or explain, somewhat to their understanding of what's going on around here. But everything affects us. Everything not only affects me, it affects them, the community, and everybody else. Now we can't protect snakes, right? You know what I'm saying? We got to kill snakes, right? Because if they're gonna bite you, you understand? Or we're gonna put them in their environment where they can just be snakes, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying like, okay,
who's the snakes?
No, I'm just saying in general. In general, I'm not calling anybody per se a snake, but I'm just saying that if these people want to live like this, right? They out here. We already know, number one, like you said, it's political, right? Number two, this is a red light district. But I'm quite sure things could get done if the right people come down here and want to get things done. When they want to get it done with the money and the power, then it's going to get done. So we can go around here, we can be all emotional, we can get all emotional, get in our emotion. But emotions are like this. We all get emotional about what we believe in and what, what our beliefs are and our concepts about everything. We all emotional. We ready to argue and fight each other. And then when this is all said and done and we go home, we all go about our business. We go this way, you go that way, I go that way. And then we forget about why we was here, because we so emotional at the moment. So what we need to do is try to come together as a people and try to address both sides. You know what I mean? We can't say, oh, well, they don't need to be up here, this, that. We need to get the power, the powerful people together and at the top to make all this go away. That's the only way. We're not going to do it. We can stay out here until our face turn blue. We're not going. There ain't nothing going to change. There's nothing going to change, especially not overnight.
Can I ask you one more question? Bigger than this, there's a real narrative right now in the media among President Biden, the Democrats, that we're getting back to normal. COVID cases are going down, more people are getting vaccinated, more jobs are coming back, even though a lot of those jobs don't pay a living wage. But there's this idea that everything's going back to normal. Well, I'm going around the country. It looks to me the normal is just the same shitty normal before the pandemic, only worse. Millions of people are facing eviction soon. A lot of people are facing loss of unemployment without ability, forced to go back to a low-paying job. Is the new normal kind of the same unlivable normal?
Well, it'll never be normal again. Nothing will never be normal, particularly after the COVID. So we already had it rough before then, and it's going to get even worse now in terms of situations such as this, economically, and how people are living in their environment, particularly up here. You know what I mean? You don't know nowhere else in the city. You can go anywhere in the city and you won't find another place like up here in Kensington that you could say, oh yeah, that look like Kensington, right? Because there's only one Kensington. There's only one K in Allegheny. This whole environment you can identify with. But you can go anywhere else in the city and you can't identify. And if you see something that's similar, it reminds you of Kensington. You're like, oh my goodness, that reminds me of, right? So no, we'll never go back to the norm. There's no such thing as the norm anymore. So we stuck with dealing with what we're dealing with right now. You know what I mean? We have to come together as a people. We gotta agree to disagree. We gotta have our points to agree and disagree, right? But we still gotta want to have the same goal in mind, making the streets, making life better for ourselves and for our children. That's the whole goal. Everybody want good. If I put a glass of water in front of you, right, a dirty glass and a clean glass, I'm quite sure you're gonna choose the clean glass every time, right? That's the way life is. If you got a choice, then you're gonna make a choice. So what we doing right now, they making choices based off of their addiction. I understand that. But they don't give themselves a chance as well, because if they did, then they would be making choices not to live like this. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, who wants to live like an animal? Who wants to live outside and poop outside and have lights and walk around a certain way? If you gave me a choice, I would rather have a roof over my head, food in my belly, and be able to provide for myself and my kids. Minus the drugs. Minus the drugs. We ain't gonna talk about how you got on drugs, what was the reason you got on drugs, but I'm quite sure at some point we realized, oh, well, we going down the wrong road and we gotta do something about it.
Most of the homeless people I've spoken with, not just here in other cities, desperately want to get off the streets.
Yeah.
Not choosing to live out there, have tried to get help. They don't have an address to put on a resume, so they can't get a job. Jobs, when they go to interview, push them away because they're homeless, have been put in shelters, but have been, I don't want to say too much in front of your children, but have been violated in the shelter. Bad things have happened in the shelter. I'm not saying every single homeless person doesn't have a choice, but I think we need to get out of generalizations that it's all a choice to be out there. Because like you said, dirty glass versus clean glass, homeless people are the same humans as you.
Right, of course.
If you give them a warm bed, food,
Right,
a chance,
Right.
I think most of them would take it.
Yeah.
To me, I think we're talking about similar things.
Right.
To me, why is the question, why do we have this rampant homelessness in the wealthiest country on earth? The wealthiest country on earth.
Yeah,
Why do we have so many people, whether they're on drugs, not on drugs, this and that? Why are the people housed, you, your family, struggling to live when you're working multiple jobs in a lot of cases? Why are we being told the economy is roaring back when every single city in this country now has a tale of two cities, with gentrification 10 blocks away and basically leaving people to rot a 10-minute drive away? This is happening everywhere.
Yeah,
So I think all of you, your feelings are valid, because no parent wants their children to have to walk through an episode of The Walking Dead, really, and drugs and poop and all that. And I think it's good, at least today, that some of you united with some of them to at least talk and realize you're not as far apart. You have more in common.
More in common than not. But the situation is the politics and the drugs is keeping this going. So if you remove the drugs, you still gonna have the politics, but people are going to start making better decisions. It's like if you want to be healthy, you're going to live healthier. You're going to start exercising, or you could say you want to live healthy, but you can do vice versa. You can live opposite of what you're saying you want to do. You know, now a lot of that trickles down here with people saying they want to be in a house. They want to get off drugs, but then the majority of them, because of their addiction, you put them in those type of environments, they're gonna sabotage it. You know, because people want to do what they want to do at the end of the day. And if people, I had one girl tell me, I said, well, why you keep messing your life up? Why you keep hurting your loved ones? And most of all, you hurting yourself. Because you know, when people use drugs, the person they hurt the most is themselves. You know what I mean? Out of everybody else, and what the bridges they burn and everything. But the thing is, they hurt themselves the most. I asked this girl, I said, why do you do this to yourself? You know what I mean? She said, because I love it. I didn't have a response to that. Like, you love it? You know, because a lot of people do this because they depressed, they got a lot of things going on. They can't handle life in general. They can't live on light terms. So they want to blink out. So, but when she said, I loved it, so what hope is it for her when she admit openly that I love drugs? That's why I do it. So what's going to stop her from using drugs if it's something that you love to do, as opposed to something that I got hooked on and I really want to get off? You know, once drugs, we understand that dope is a strong thing. It affects you mentally, emotionally, physically, and everything. So it's hard getting off of that. So, but most of the people that get off of it at some point go back to it. It's not like crack, where you smoke it and your serotonin levels, you know what I mean, are boosted, and then when your serotonin levels go down, okay, now you need to go back up. You could do without that, and you can heal better. But when you actually shooting dope into your arms and all that, that's a different type of thing. It's like an alcoholic that drink. When an alcoholic drink, been drinking so long, he could die. He get DTs and he start shaking. So anything can happen. It's physical. So out here, we need the higher power. Not only a higher power, but we need some political. We need them to come in and help. See how they standing around? They don't care about the police. The governor came down here or the mayor came down here. It's not affecting their house. You remember what happened when in the presidency, when they said, when Nancy Reagan and all was in office, and it was just saying, say no to drugs, and Ronald Reagan and them, and the CIA was one of the biggest drug dealers, you know what I'm saying? Iran Conference, and Oliver North had to take the fall for that. Conference. Right, and he had to take the fall for that. You see what I'm saying? They don't care about that. They got everything they need. They kids going to the best schools. You know, they got money, and they don't worry about that. Now when it starts spilling over into the White House and start affecting their kids and stuff like that, now it's an epidemic. Now it's a problem. But it wasn't a problem when we was down here in the neighborhood and we was suffering and we was crying out for help. You know what I mean? We're not trying to crucify nobody or bash nobody. You know, we're not trying to act like we better than anybody or stand on a pedestal. We just want what's right. I just want what's right for them. I just want them to be able to have a chance, you know? So is that chance going to be them walking down the street and being introduced to drugs as they grow up and say, hey, try this? Or that look like it's acceptable. We don't want to act like this is the norm. We don't want the kids to grow up like this the normal. This is totally normal. For me to look out my door and see all these type of activities, it's not normal, and it plays on you, on your psyche, on your mental, you know what I mean? It comes out emotionally, and then it comes out in your actions physically. You see, so therefore, we got to speak up. We got to try to do something. We got to try to come together. The people that's using drugs and living out here, the people that's not using drugs, that's in the community, the people that's working it's for a better life, we all got to come together, the common denominator. We all got to get together and try to make life better. We got to try to figure out what can we do for you guys that's going to make life better for you, and then at the same time, what we need to do for us to make life better for us. So how we going to do that? That's the question. And we ain't getting no help from the higher ups, then we stuck, right? Because we can't do it alone. Like I said, everybody can come out here. The whole neighborhood can come out here, scream, holler, even get physical with each other. After it's all over with, the same thing gonna go on, right?
What's your name?
Well, Walik.
Walik, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I respond to some of the stuff you were talking about?
Yeah, come on over here. What's your name?
My name is Dennis Payne. I'm the founder of the Eye of Kensington on Facebook. I also do a lot of community things with the Friends of McPherson Square, which is the famous Needlepoint Park. And what's going on should be on a national level. You're so right. Everything here is carbon copy of every city. I've been traveling for over 30 some odd years. There ain't a city in this country that I haven't practically seen except for north of New York. And I'm advocating on a national level for a national sheltering system that starts with an emergency intake center that focuses on mental health, physical health, homelessness, and addictions of all sorts, be it gambling, sex, drugs. Without this kind of program on a national level supported by the national taxpayers and the government and private grants to make this happen, right, none of this is going to work. All the attempts on both sides, all it's going to do, as I demonstrated earlier, is cause friction. Okay, so much friction that it's going to be a match in the powder keg. Right here, Kensington, if we can fix what ails Kensington here, we can cure the nation. I suggest as a president, as a model, are you familiar with the Water Street Rescue Mission in Lancaster, PA?
No.
Okay, well, they've been up since 1901, and they cater to an individual at a time. They do not have a cookie-cutter system where you come in and whatever, you're part of whatever. No, they come in and evaluate the individual. And on them grounds is how I base an emergency intake center, that you evaluate that individual. Not all individuals living out here on the street are out here because they're homeless, for being poor, or mentally or disabled. There's many reasons, and we need a place that can figure out what that individual's reason, why they got where they're at, and how we can get them back onto their God-given destiny for their life. And then that's where the homes of hope, I believe, through an intake center, shelter for those who need it, later on to homes of hope. I like to turn abandoned houses around the country into homes of hope later on, but it takes the nation to do it. There's a movie called Meet John Doe, and it's about a guy going to commit suicide at Christmas Eve if everybody didn't get together and create something that was going to care for the unfortunate neighbor, the elderly lady who's eating cat food because she can't afford, regular food, but she can afford her cat food. All kinds of little things like that. This is where we're at now. If we do not come together as a nation, we will fall. We are falling. What we're witnessing right now here in Kensington is the fall of our community. And those of us that are born and raised, I'm 3 blocks from here at Jasper and Wensley. I'm known, right, very well around here, as you can tell, mingling in the crowd. A lot of people know me. I've been advocating all this for, here in Kensington for at least a good 20 years. I started Havoc, which is called Homeless American Volunteer Organization Coalition. The key word, organization coalition, There's no organization, there's no coalition out here organizing everybody together. And that's what I hope for Havoc to be. Take all sides, sit down at the table. A lot of people don't understand that Philadelphia is the seat where our citizens can present our grievances to the nation. I ask everybody to come to Philadelphia and create a quorum. And let's build a good shelter on all levels for all people, no matter who they are. Even the animals will benefit out of this shelter. We have shortages of animal shelters. We have orphanages that kids age out. They don't have no places. Covenant House can't handle all of them. So we need something for every city, from population of 8 to a population of 8 million. We need shelters, and it can't be just government and religious based. It's got to be community based and tailored to that particular community. I'm sure a community of a population of 8 don't have all these issues, but they still have people that are poor that need things.
I think everything you said was really powerful. Keyword organizing. You can't really organize if one side is fighting with the other. They share a lot of the same beliefs, but have their eyes on each other instead of the government who's selling them out. Right. I also wanted to ask you, you were talking at the federal level what they need to do, but a major problem in America is our politicians, federally, state, local, are taking bribes. are taking bribes from the real estate developers, are taking bribes from the banks, fossil fuel, big pharma. So how do you get them to do the sensible thing, the humane thing, what you're saying, if they're...
Penalize them. Ultimately penalize them. If they go against the grain of the community in which they serve, and they are not helping to improve that community, in which their track records are evidence of that, okay? And right now, we got a president who's more concerned about other issues other than what's taking place here on our streets. I have not seen an American president not once come to Kensington and say, hey, I hear you. We are not being heard. The residents here in Kensington are not being heard. We are being snuffed out. Our voices are being snuffed out by people that are coming into our neighborhood, like Shift Capital, Operation Save Our City. They're snuffing our voices out, okay? Look, they came out here. This was supposed to be our time to say something, but they came out to go toe-to-toe with us. As I demonstrated earlier, I went off because that was to demonstrate how angry everybody in this community. Everybody, when I went off, you notice how they all cheered, went on, right? I represent a lot of people. I'm just a little pit bull, okay? I was just nipping at their heels, okay? But there's a lot more bigger people around here that are getting tired of it. And I know a lot of big-time dealers that are tired of it. Everybody wants the madness to stop. A lot of the people that are caught up in the game as far as dealing, they don't know how to get out of it or don't want to get out of it. Okay, that's a whole different issue. We'll leave that up to the politicians, right? But in the meantime, we gotta get them off our streets. What they did to Gurney Camp, right? They moved them people out of Gurney Camp without anywhere to go. They should have had a shelter up and going for them to go to, or something in that kind of form, before they disrupted the nest. Now that they disrupted the nest, they're continuing to disrupt our community. Now, if you can have community standards on Facebook and everywhere else, why can't Kensington have community standards? And when people violate our community standards, why can't we have our paid, our money, our tax dollars, law enforcement come in and protect our community standards? Why, when I was a kid, I'm going clean and sober since '85. I was the worst junkie out here. I used to huff glue and shoot meth. Okay, none of these kids out here was anywhere near bad as I was in the 70s. Okay, they're all angels. But what happened in the 70s ain't happening now. And I predict the 70s are coming back if we don't get our streets back. What we did in the 70s, what happened to me, I couldn't walk the streets down on any of these avenues without getting beat up because they didn't want no glue huffers. They didn't want no users, okay? That same mentality is coming back, and it's coming back really hard. And if people don't get together, like I said, Kensington's a powder keg just waiting to blow.
And what's your message? Because it seems Biden, the media certainly, they're still fixated on Trump. They're fixated on, the Super Bowl, Biden going to Russia.
They're all promoting distractions. They're distracting from the real issues. Okay, the real issues is rebuild America from the bottom up. Okay, not the top down, the bottom up. Okay, don't trickle down theory, trickle up. Okay, I right now personally believe that every single politician on the books right now deserves a 75% pay cut. They should lose 75% of their pay, okay, because they are doing nothing. They are standing in the way of progress. They are causing more chaos and more dissension amongst our society than any government since the creation of this government. Okay, you think Abe Lincoln had it hard with all the different parties, Whiggers and Quakers and whatever it was. Look at the chaos today. We are more chaotic than what we were 200 years ago, 400 years ago. We are so scrambled that we don't know what direction this country is going. And if we don't stand up and start pulling together, what was the old saying? United we stand, divided we fall. No, we're being divided. Okay, why are we being divided? Over somebody else's guns and drugs that are not even being manufactured in this neighborhood. And this neighborhood is a dying neighborhood. It just doesn't know that it died yet. It has a chance to be revived, but if it keeps going down this road that it's going, we'll be burying it next.
And you could say that for this neighborhood and
all Philadelphia,
many neighborhoods around the country.
Yes, yes.
What's your name again?
My name is Dennis Payne, and I'm the founder of the Eye of Kensington on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name.
The Eye of Kensington?
The Eye of Kensington. As I see it, I like everybody else to see it, and I know everybody don't see my way, but if you are for getting these guys help, then you got to see the national shelter as the solution to what's going on. First, we need to know who's out here. And that's what the intake center is all about. We need to evaluate the mental from the physical, from the addiction. Send them on down to their proper roads. Those that got mental health, go into mental health. Those that got regular economic homeless issues, onto retraining. Those who are addicted, onto a rehab of some sort. And we need laws to back a lot of this stuff up. If you OD on our streets, anytime, anywhere on our streets, it should be mandatory 1 year drug and alcohol rehab. When you cannot get up and walk away from that cop, you cannot get up and walk away from that paramedic. Once they've been called and they come to your side and they start administering help, you're now in their custody. You have proven that you have gone against our community standards and you became a hazard not only to yourself but to our community. And by that, you deemed yourself, what's the proper word? Incompetent. By ODing in our streets, you declared yourself incompetent. You're no longer safe, so we can pull you out and put you into a rehab. The first 6 months deals with your addiction. The next 6 months deals with your recovery. And it should be a mandatory 1 year.
I agree totally. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. So that was... Okay. So yeah, I was going to wrap up. So that was... Say your name again?
Dennis Payne.
Dennis Payne. That was Dennis Payne. A lot of folks that I speak with have literally been on the ground, whatever side they're on, fighting the fight here and other places for 10, 20, 30 years. And a common, if you listen to all this, whether it's the residents here who are trying to survive themselves, or homeless advocates, lawyers fighting for the homeless, some of the homeless. I interviewed a man in McPherson Square the other day. You see a common theme. They're all being screwed in different ways. They're all being left to rot by the government. There's federal, state, and local. And that rotting, that abandonment from the public servants, abandonment in not getting them off the streets, abandonment of, if they are housed, not delivering the rent relief that was supposed to go to them. All over the country, the numbers are coming out now. The rent relief that was earmarked federally has not been distributed widely to Philadelphia, in Texas, in New York, everywhere. It's a bureaucratic nightmare, and it's probably designed to be that way. When homeless communities, working class communities, working poor communities, non-living wage communities, minority communities, when everybody is fighting for survival, you end up fighting each other. That's what happens. And I can't argue with residents here who don't want their children walking through needles, who don't want poop on their doorstep, who don't want to walk and feel threatened or their children threatened, who don't want drug dealers. I'm not arguing with any of that. I think what people need to start thinking about is, we know what the problem is. Everybody might have a different mentality of what caused it, but who are the people that can solve it? It's all the people on this street. By shaming, pressuring, protesting, economically protesting their local government and on to the federal government. Homelessness, even third world countries don't have the level of homelessness that America now has. Do you know that? A lot of third world countries don't have this level of homelessness. And the core reason for it all is we live in the United Corporations of America. Let me repeat. We live in the United Corporations of America. Our government has been bought. Our government has been bribed. Local government, I mean, they're talking about there's literally real estate developers that are on the city council here. There are real estate developers that are politicians here. Okay? Thank you for watching. We'll update you a little bit later on where we're going next. This is our in the field reporting road trip. We've been in Philadelphia for 3 days. The plan is now to go to Cleveland, Ohio, and after that, possibly West Virginia. I don't see anybody else doing this, frankly. I don't see anybody else doing this. I don't see anybody else giving a voice to people out here. Maybe some local independent journalists, but certainly not the local stations. Certainly not CNN, certainly not MSNBC, certainly not the New York Times. As he pointed out, they're more interested in the distractions. They're more interested in the distractions. Frankly, there's a lot of independent channels right now that are more interested in food fighting with different channels and different networks rather than covering this. Yes, there is other independent channels, progressive channels, that I can't get to cover what we're covering, that I can't get to even share the content on social media. I like all these people, but we need to wake up. It's not all about clickbait. It's not all about, who's fighting with who and, this host is mad at this host and progressive food fight online. People are dying on the streets. People are being evicted who are housed. People are losing their unemployment and being forced to go back to non-living jobs. People have lost their health care during this pandemic. Let's focus on what's important. Thanks for watching. We'll update you later. By the way, very important. This reporting is actually very expensive. We got to pay for food, for gas, hotels, the car, equipment. Obviously, we're paying John behind the camera. It's even parking. Holy shit. We've already spent over $100 in parking over 3 days here in Philadelphia, which is another scam. If you can support this reporting, go to statuscoup.com/theotherpandemic. statuscoup.com/theotherpandemic. That's what we're calling this. We need your support, any amount. Larger amounts really make a difference, but we appreciate the smaller amounts too. Anything you could do, statuscoup.com/otherpandemic. We're not like other networks asking you for money and then not doing anything with it other than pontificating on bullshit. We're out in the trenches, in the streets, giving voices to people who don't have them in corporate media.